Well, hello, everybody. This is Dr. Monica Powell. I'm the Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean here at the Jindal School, and I would like to welcome all of our deferred students who decided to wait and join us this spring. We are so excited that you've joined this webinar. We have a lot to do in this short amount of time. Number one, we want to introduce you to your program director so you have a clue who it is that's leading your academic journey here. We're also going to introduce you to the course modalities that are available in the spring so that you understand the differences between the types of courses that you can register for. And then, of course, we're going to talk about registration. Sometimes that can be a little bit foreign if you haven't been in school for a while. So without further ado, let's pass it off and let's introduce you to the program directors for the graduate programs here at the Jindal School. So let's talk about the course modality options that you have for your spring 2021 course schedule. So for all of you that deferred your enrollment, these options are going to be brand new to you. You probably never heard of universities offering this many options for a student. But if you look at the chart that's on the screen, you're going to see the options across the top. Those are the category labels on the top of each column. So as a student, when you are looking at the course schedule and course lookup to decide what you want to take, you're going to be able to see which of the 5 course modalities a particular course is being offered in. So let's go over what those 5 modalities are. So the first one is traditional face-to-face. That means you're choosing to come be in class, on campus, with a faculty member in a socially distant classroom. So the faculty member will have on a face mask, you'll have on a face mask, you'll be 6 feet from the people that are in the classroom with you. So that's traditional face-to-face. The second option that students have is something that we call in the academic world hybrid learning, or sometimes it's referred to as blended. And what that means is that you rotate between being face-to-face in the classroom and having your classes online. So you might have 1 week that you're face-to-face in the room, and the next week class is going to be streamed to you and the professor will be in their office. So that's a little bit of a different version of face-to-face. The third face-to-face option is something that we call high flex or flexible. And what this means is that the class is broken up into groups of students who rotate in to be in the classroom, and then the rest of the time they're not in the classroom. So you might be divided in half and come in every other class session. You might be divided into thirds and come in every third class session. So basically the first 3 columns represent face-to-face options for students. So if you are a student that will require a face-to-face class, maybe for immigration purposes, then you will want to take classes that have one of these 3 course modalities. So what's the fourth one? The fourth one is what we call remote modality. And what that means is that your class, if it's scheduled on Thursday at 1 o'clock, that class is taking place Thursday at 1 o'clock, but your faculty member is teaching it remotely. They might be in their home office, they might be in their campus office, they could be anywhere delivering that instruction to you, but that class is taking place at the regularly scheduled class time. The last modality is fully online. This means that your course has a section number that includes a W. So you want to know that that particular online option is fully online, always online, and totally asynchronous, meaning that that class is not happening at any particular scheduled time. Now, there's something for all of you to keep in mind as deferred students. When you go to look at these options, even if you choose a face-to-face, or you choose a hybrid, or you choose a high flex, or you choose a remote, any of those first 4 columns on the chart on the screen, you could choose to attend any of those classes asynchronously. So let's say, for example, you suddenly have a situation where you're caring for a child that has COVID or an elderly parent that has COVID, and you were signed up for a face-to-face class. You could choose to attend that class asynchronously. You can attend any of the course modalities asynchronously. You just need to make sure that you are in touch with your faculty member with regard to attending asynchronously. All of those courses will be streamed, so if you're not in the classroom, you can get them live, but they will be recorded so that you can get them at a time that is more convenient depending upon what's going on in your life. So again, let's review. There are 5 different course modalities. 3 of them are face-to-face. That's traditional, hybrid, or high flex. Remote is happening where the faculty member is teaching remotely to wherever you are, and then online is fully online and always asynchronous. Now, is this simple? No. Is it complicated? Yes. Are you going to have a lot of questions about it? Yes. And we are going to address all of the questions that you have in this webinar. And we're going to encourage you to put those questions in the chat so that myself and Corina Cantua can really answer those questions. We don't want there to be any confusion for any of our students that are coming to campus or participating in learning for the first time. We want it to be really clear so that you kind of know what you're signing up for. So how do you do that? We're going to move on to the next part that's really hosted by Corina Cantua, and she's going to go over, how does course registration work? Where do you find information about course descriptions? How can you identify whether a class is one of these 5 modalities? How will you know that when you're signing up? So let's move on to the next section and bring Corina on board to address those registration questions.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy that you're able to join us today. I want to take a little bit of time to provide information and reminders about what you need to keep in mind each semester as you prepare for registration. My number one recommendation for a successful registration is preparation. So we want to make sure that we get started with that today. Now, the first item that we want to cover is the academic calendar. So this is available to you every semester, and it outlines important deadlines that you have to keep in mind, including the window of registration, last day to add coursework, the first and last days of class, as well as detailed payment information on page 2. And on this slide, page 2 is actually on the right-hand side of your screen. Now, it does not display the complete calendar, so make sure that you go on the UTD page and get a copy. Go ahead and print it out. Add these dates to your own personal calendar on your phone, and maybe even set some reminders for yourself ahead of these deadlines so that they don't get past you. Everything kind of about registration revolves around the academic calendar, so it's very important that you have a copy and that you're aware of the deadlines that are coming up. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is your coursework, right? In order to start registering, you have to figure out what courses you're going to add for that semester. You decide how many courses you want to take, then you have to figure out which ones they will be. So for that, you have to be available of your degree requirements. I always like to remind students that the degree requirements come from the graduate catalog, which you can access via the link on this slide. It's a pretty short link. It's catalog.utdallas.edu. Please take some time to look through it if you haven't already. Keep it handy as a resource. You don't have to memorize it, but do get comfortable with the information in it, especially with the information regarding the courses that you need to be able to earn your degree. Now, because we're talking about the catalog, I always want to also mention the required GPA. To be able to continue in the program, you have to keep a minimum GPA in your of 3.0 in your degree program, your core, and your overall. So that you have to be mindful of doing well in your classes and keeping an eye on that GPA, because if it does fall below that 3.0, it may ultimately mean that you're not able to continue in the program and you may not be able to earn your degree. Now, getting back to how you choose your courses, another item that you can find useful in determining what classes you need is a tool that we prepare in our office and that we call the Degree Plan Worksheet. We take the information from the catalog regarding the courses that you need for your degree and we place them in which I think is a very easy to read PDF spreadsheet that then helps you kind of figure out what courses you've already satisfied and what courses you still need to complete, so that also kind of gives you an indication of what courses you need to make sure that you're enrolling in the upcoming semester. The last item I want to mention is that your program director and their team, they also put a lot of information to get together that they either email out to you or that they present at events and webinars. And it includes details on their recommendation on courses. So please take advantage of that type of information. The program director, the faculty that they work with, they're the experts in the field that you're studying in. And so their insight is so useful in helping you make the most of your degree. So be mindful of the information that they provide as well. So now, when it comes to registration, your registration is actually going to happen within the Orion Student Center. So we definitely want to go ahead and take a look at that. As you know, you log into the Orion Student Center via Galaxy using your NetID and password. The main UTD page will contain the link. So utdallas.edu, at the very top of the page, you will see the link to Galaxy, which then gives you Orion Student Center. I did want to remind you that if you ever have any logging issues because of your NetID or password or just something doesn't work, you can always reach out to the computer help desk, also known as the OIT help desk. They'll be the ones to kind of help you troubleshoot. I put the link on the slide, but you don't necessarily have to remember it. Whenever you go to the page to log in, there will always be right below it, as it shows on the bottom of this slide, is a link where you can click and get access to the help desk. So contact the help desk. It's going to be accessible to you right there. So now once you go into the Orion Student Center, you will see these tiles, right? There's a lot of information, even beyond what we're going to cover about registration, that you would have accessible within the Orion Student Center. Now, Manage My Classes is the main tile that we use, where you're going to find a lot of the information that you need for registration. But before we jump and look at what the content of Manage My Classes, I actually wanted to look at a tile that's labeled Tasks. So to stay connected with you and to keep you informed on required tasks that you have to complete, we utilize to-do lists and holds, which are the items that you can essentially find within this tile. Holds are going to be placed in your account if there are any actions that you have to take before being allowed to move forward in your program. So this is a very important part in preparation for registration. You have to make sure that you take a look at this tasks tile and then take care of any pending items, clear any holds, so that once you start registering, this is not something that holds you back. So take care of it ahead of time so that you're ready to go when the time for registration begins. The next one is, the next thing I want to cover is the Manage My Classes tile. So as you can see, there's a lot of information on this tile that contains to registration, from searching for classes, actually adding a class, dropping a class. The items towards the bottom of the list may not be items specifically related to registering, but they're also informational once you're enrolled, right? What's my exam schedule? Where can I get my books? But for right now, what I wanted to point out is in the middle of those bullet points on the slide, you will see something called enrollment appointment, right? So if you go to this tile, this is where you can also view your enrollment appointment. I want to remind you that even though it's called enrollment appointment, it actually isn't an appointment. This is actually just a date and time when you can actually start registering in your coursework. And sometimes to help clarify that, we refer to it as an enrollment date. So as soon as that date and day and time hits or starts, you are able to then log into the system and start adding courses to your schedule. Of course, you do not wait until that day and time to start planning for it. So even though your day and time is not until a few weeks from now, you can start today, start planning once the schedule goes live, start planning what courses you want to take, put them in your shopping cart, get it ready to go. So then as soon as the your enrollment day and time hits, all you have to do is just say, finish enrolling. That's going to make it easier and more likely that you get more of the type of schedule that you want to get instead of starting to plan right when your enrollment day and time hits. All right, so my final thoughts on registration specifically, and also this is also something that's going to help you just being a student at UTD, is just to be aware that all of the communication with UTD departments has to be through UTD email. So please make sure that it is up and running, that you can log in and check your email, and then make sure to work with a computer help desk if it's not working, and make sure that you're checking it on a regular basis, because not only is it going to be a tool for you to reach out to us, but it's also an important tool for us to reach out to you. Sometimes we need to give you information, ask a question, be proactive about something and that we're emailing you about. So it's good that you check it on a regular basis and that you keep a communication going with us through your UTD email. And then I know that as a UTD student, you know that you receive two IDs, right? One's called the UTD ID, which is the one that starts with 20 and just has numbers. And then the other one's called the Net ID, which is essentially your initials followed by some numbers. Now, there's a difference in how you use these. Whenever you communicate with us via email for assistance with registration, for example, don't use the UTD ID. So keep the UTD ID to yourself. Keep it protected. Don't share it. Kind of treat it a little bit like your social security number. It is an identification number that we are aware of, but it's not something that you want to share over email. If we do need to kind of determine who you are to make sure that we're looking at the same file, we could use the Net ID. So if in email we need to make sure that we're talking or we're working with the correct file, we will ask you for your Net ID, but we will never ask you for your UTD ID. The last thing is that I want to mention is that we do have a page dedicated for registration information. So please take some time to check it out. It's going to have a lot of details on items that I covered today, but a lot more information about, the academic calendar, the full link so that you can see the full page, the catalog, a link to the catalog, how to search for classes. We've added some videos on there that hopefully will help you figure out how you can search for classes. So I hope that you find that page very useful. I hope that you found the information that I've shared with you today very useful. But of course, if there's ever a doubt and you need help, please reach out. Please let us know, and we'll definitely be happy to help. All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Corina. I know that we probably have generated a lot of questions out there. So we want to get started on really addressing what your specific concerns are. And Corina is here available to answer some of these questions, and we will do our very best. So Norma, our masterful producer behind the scenes, let's start with the first question.
So the first question that we have is, will students for spring 2021 be allowed to start classes online with an FV visa if they don't happen to get a visa before the semester starts?
So yes, you could start classes as an FV. Now, there are a couple of really important things that I want to point out to any of our international students who may have attended virtually with us this fall. You need to make sure that if you're going to arrive in the United States after classes start in the spring, there are only 2 dates in a semester when you can arrive legally. One of those is at the beginning of the semester, and one is at the beginning of the second 8 weeks. And if you are not going to be able to get a visa to arrive here for the first day of class or right at that time, then you want to make absolutely certain that you are enrolled in a face-to-face class, because there's no way that you're going to get a visa if you aren't enrolled in at least one face-to-face class. Now, there's another related issue. If you have been a virtual student this fall and you are joining us in the spring, you're coming to the United States, you have a visa, you will need to be enrolled in one of those first 3 course modalities. You'll need to be enrolled in a face-to-face, a hybrid, a high flex, or flexible class. That is going to be a requirement for your immigration status and for you to be in status. So again, you could attend the entire second semester, spring 2021 semester as an FV student and be enrolled in all remote classes. But if you are an FV student who is going to arrive in the United States to continue your classes, you must be enrolled in at least one 3-credit-hour face-to-face class. And then you would need to work very closely with the ISSO about your approved arrival time, because international students can only arrive at 2 particular times during the semester. So let me review that one more time, because I know that can be very confusing. There could be some virtual students who were virtual with us this fall, meaning you were back in South Korea, or you were in Singapore, you were in Australia, you were in Indiana. Well, I guess Indiana doesn't count. You were in Japan, and you were taking all virtual classes. As a virtual student, it didn't matter if you were in a face-to-face modality. But once you arrive here in the United States, you must be in a face-to-face class, at least one 3-credit-hour class. So if you think you might arrive late and you are enrolling, make sure you enroll in a face-to-face modality. Again, that's traditional, hybrid, or flexible. So, and if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to email us, because I know that that's complicated. Now, Norma has put on the screen a list of all of the program directors whom you can contact, because all of them are having webinars this next week. And you can see all of those dates down the middle of the screen. And they're conducting these webinars because they want to be available to answer course questions, prerequisite questions, questions about what track should I be in relative to what kind of career and position I want to pursue. So I would encourage all of you that are attending this webinar today, where we're talking about the transactional process to register for classes, I encourage you to definitely come and attend one of these webinars this next week, where you can hear from the program directors, and they will answer every, content, course related, elective, concentration, career related question that you might have, so that you can enroll in the best classes for your future.
So this next question has a lot to do with what you just mentioned. It says, when and whom should we contact for designing a personalized track for ourselves?
Yeah, you will want to attend the webinar that you see on your screen that is directly related to your degree program, because within that webinar, you could ask those questions about, this is my background, this is what I'm bringing to the table, this is what I think I want to do. Is this track or that track better for me? And they're going to be able to answer those questions for you and look at your particular circumstance. If you have any questions that are like that, and you want to send those directly to your program director, you can also do that. But I strongly encourage you to attend the webinar, because they're going to go over the entire degree plan. Here are the classes that are required. Here are the classes that are electives. This is how many free electives you have. Here are the number of concentrations or tracks that you have as an option. Here are the kinds of jobs that you can get relative to those tracks. So you will save yourself a lot of time if you attend one of those program-specific webinars.
So this next question asks, what is the difference between virtual and online? But I think they might mean, what is the difference between remote course mode and online course mode?
That's a really great question, and that is a complicated question, actually. So as I explained when I was talking about the course modalities, all of those course modalities are available to you asynchronously. That means that I can't attend class on Monday at 2 and I'm enrolled in a face-to-face class, but you'll still be able to participate in that class. You can watch the link that the faculty member provides that records that instruction. So every single course modality is available to you in an asynchronous format. Now, to get specifically to the question that you've asked, what's the difference between a remote class and a purely online class? So a remote class is happening according to the schedule. You enroll in a class that is at Thursday at 2. That class is happening Thursday at 2. The professor is either in their office here on campus, they might be at home, they could even be in a classroom, but they are delivering the class at the time that the class is on the schedule. Now, again, that class is being recorded and you can get that class asynchronously. Now, if you enroll in a purely online class, and you know the difference because the section number is going to include AW. If you're enrolled in a purely online class, that is completely asynchronous. It is never going on at a certain time, and you are participating completely asynchronously. And there is an additional course fee that is associated with a purely online class.
This person asked if the remote and online, or the remote/virtual class, is counted as in person. So I think this might be a good opportunity to review again what is considered face-to-face, in person versus not.
That is a great question. The remote modality is not considered a face-to-face course. There are only 3 of the 5 that are. One that is traditional, one that is called hybrid, and one that is called flexible. We sometimes call that high flex. Those are the 3 classes that would count as a face-to-face class. And if you are an international student that is coming to the US for the first time, you will need to be enrolled in one 3-credit hour face-to-face class. So that's either face-to-face, hybrid, or flexible. Now, if for some reason you have difficulty finding one of those classes, then you need to reach out to your program director. You need to reach out to the advising office. We are going to make sure that our FV students who are joining us for the first time, or our deferred students who are joining us, we're going to make sure that you get into a face-to-face modality class so that you are in status.
So those 3 face-to-face, in-person course modes that you mentioned, if they are in the US, do they need to engage in all 3 of those course modalities that are face-to-face, or any of them is fine?
Just one of them. all of our classes are 3 credit hour classes. So you need to be, for immigration standards, you need to be enrolled in 1 3 credit hour face-to-face course. You don't need to be in 3, you need to be in 1. Now you might end up being in 3, but you just need to be in 1. That requirement, that immigration requirement, is if you are a brand new student in the U.S. for the first time. If you happen to be a continuing student and you're already in the U.S., you have a different hurdle. But if you are being in the U.S. for the first time, meaning you were a deferred international student that deferred from a previous semester to spring, and you're arriving for the first time in the U.S., that face-to-face 1 3 credit hour face-to-face is required. Or if you were an FV student who was with us virtually in the fall, but you're coming to the U.S. for the first time, you also have that requirement as well.
We have a couple people who have asked about holds, specifically the hold that's labeled cannot register online. How do they get rid of that hold?
So Corina, you want to talk about the different holds and what to do if they have a challenge with any of them?
Sure, definitely. So the cannot register online hold, that's a new student advising hold that we will clear in our office. Actually, we've already requested that all of our incoming students get that hold cleared because you're attending this webinar. So this is providing you with the information that we would provide you to clear the hold. So that should be gone within the next week or so, definitely before that you actually start registering for your classes. There may be other holds. There's an international orientation hold that students usually have, which should not be on your account either. And there's a TV test hold that usually is in your account, which should not be on your account either. So those 3 holds are typical first semester holds, but in this scenario, if you're going to start virtually, especially, you won't have those holds. We want to make sure that you're able to start registering, you access the schedule, you can add coursework. So if you see any of those holds, just let us know. We can definitely look into them and make sure that they're released so that you are ready to register.
Corina, while you are on camera, I have a couple more hold questions, specifically about missing academic documents. One person asked if they can submit them when they come to the U.S., and a couple people asked, do they have to be submitted, before school starts or before registration?
Sure. So we recommend, if it's possible, for you to submit the documents ahead. That's always the best thing because you want to make sure that we have a complete file and you get your things taken care of, not leaving something to worry about for later. So if it is possible, go ahead and submit the documents now. If it is not possible and you need a little bit more time, or there's some problems with getting the documentation or mailing it in, especially, currently with what's happening, it may be more challenging to get the documentation submitted. Let us know. We would probably also be able to work with you on figuring out another deadline to get you more time to submit those documents.
Thank you. Monica, the next question has to do with a university policy surrounding any kind of 14-day quarantine when they arrive in the U.S.
So you will want to quarantine when you arrive in the U.S. That's just good practice, good protocol. So you should arrive early enough that you can quarantine for 14 days. It'll make you feel better and you will feel more settled. You'll transition a little bit better. So you need to be prepared to arrive, have your place to live, make sure that you've made provisions so that you can get food and what you need, but it is good standard practice to quarantine. And I would do that if I were you. So arrive prepared to do that.
This next question asks, can we do an internship in the fall after finishing the spring and summer semester?
So that's a great question. So thank you for whomever asked that question. It's a little bit of a complicated answer. If you are in 5 specific degree programs, in those programs, and I'm going to tell you what those are, that's ITM, Information Technology Management, that's Business Analytics, that's Marketing, Supply Chain, and Management Science. If you are in any of those 5 disciplines, they have a rule in the catalog for their degree program that says you must complete an internship upon completing 18 credit hours. So if you come and you arrive here in the U.S., to enroll in what will be, you're required to be in 9 credit hours, but you'll end up being in 10 because there's a program prerequisite for professional development. So if you take 10 in the spring, followed by 9 credit hours or 3 classes in the summer, then you will have met the 18-hour requirement to do a CPT or an internship. If you are in other degree programs, graduate degree programs, that rule does not apply, and you have to do 2 long semesters. And a long semester is a spring or a fall. So it really depends upon the program you're in. Now, you could decide to just attend virtually in the spring and be in those 5 programs, only in those 5 programs, take your 10 credit hours and then arrive in the US and take 9 in the summer, and you would still be eligible. So, but that only applies to those 5 degree programs. So that's information technology management, supply chain, management science, business analytics, and marketing. So I hope that answered that question. And if you have any confusion about that or any confusion about anything, you can email jindal@utdallas.edu, and we'll make sure that we get the answer for you so that you can have certainty in what the rules are.
This next person asked, where can we find the evaluation of professors and courses?
So you can go to Coursework and you can see evaluations of professors. Corina, can you walk them through how they do that and where they find Coursework?
Sure thing. So one of the links that you'll find, I shared the registration page that we have on the website. If you go to jindal.utdallas.edu and you go to advising, then go to the registration section, you will find a link on there to Coursework. And then you'll also find a video actually within that as well that shows you how to search within Coursework. But one of the things that you can find within Coursework is if you search a previous semester, we usually recommend to search, if you're looking at spring, you probably want to take a look at the previous spring, because those are the semesters that tend to match up a little bit better. But once you find that class that was taught in the previous spring, then you are able to look at a course syllabus that was posted for that semester, who taught the classes, and then also the evaluation of the instructor. So that's where you would be able to see the feedback that was left regarding that specific class that you may be interested in. It's a pretty simple, once you figure out where it is that you need to search, it's a pretty easy tool to use. You just have to find it, but go to jindal.utdallas.edu, go to advising, and then go to the registration section, and we have a lot of good links in there that will get you to where you need to go.
And a handy tip is that advising is in the top navigation of the Jindal webpage. So if you look at the very top, along the very top navigation, advising is the first thing to click. So click that and then click registration, and you are almost there to getting the information you need.
We've had a couple people ask when they can start to register for courses.
Corina?
Sure. So you'll, in the presentation that we did, I mentioned the enrollment date. So all of you will have an assigned enrollment date, which was made available on Monday. So then when you log in, you will be able to find it. Same spot. When you go to advising the registration page, we have information for you where you can do a step-by-step to find that enrollment date. So you will actually be able to start adding courses to your schedule from that date on. So it will have a date and a time. So if it's 3 p.m., you actually will not be able to add any courses ahead of 3 p.m. You actually do have to wait till 3 p.m. to then start adding. Now,
and
our
that's
recommendation.
Central Standard Time.
Yes, Central Standard Time. Yes. Our recommendation is always for you to actually plan your courses and be ready. You can even put them in what's called a shopping cart, which is your that's the last step before you actually register in your courses. You can load them in your shopping cart and they'll be waiting. And then when your enrollment date and time comes up, all you have to do is just finish enrolling and finish that transaction. That's the recommendation, because if you wait until your enrollment date to actually start planning your classes, then you will not probably register until a few hours or a few days after that, because you'll need that time to figure out what classes you want to take. So now that the schedule is published, start looking at it, participate in the webinars that the programs are providing to understand what courses you need to look for, and then get it all ready to go. And the last thing that you'll be doing is on your enrollment day and time, you just push finish enrolling and you get your classes for your spring semester.
That was a great explanation, Corina.
So the next question has to do with summer enrollment. Since we would be joining in spring, are we allowed to take courses in the summer semester? It looks like summer will be a small semester, so how could we manage courses if we do?
So, so that's a great question. International students are not required by their immigration status to be enrolled in the summer. But if you're going to start with us as a deferred student this spring, you may want to enroll this summer. I would not encourage you to take more than 9 credit hours in the summer. The summer semester is compressed. The regular fall and spring semester are 16 weeks long, but the summer semester is 12. So that means you're getting all the same content in a more compressed schedule. But yes, you can schedule classes for the summer as well.
In their planner, they cannot see the mode of classes offered. They can only see the student interest and instructor that's available.
Corina, can you explain to them where they can actually see the course mode?
Yes. So when you look at your planner and if you're using schedule planner, there may be some descriptions in there. I have not ventured in schedule planner to see what the course mode looks like within that, but I'm thinking that it's probably there right below the description. But if it's not coming up, I would recommend that you go in and use Orion Student Center, or that you use Coursebook, because they will also have the details on the course mode. And when you look up either one, you'll see the course description, and below it, you will see, it's called a class attribute, but essentially all it is just tells you what type of course mode that particular course that you're looking at is labeled as, or it has been assigned. So that will give you information. There may be some additional class notes right below that has some additional information about the course, but it will be right below the course description in both the Orion Student Center and Coursebook. So if you're not finding it in Schedule Planner, go ahead and take a look at the other two options, and you will definitely see it there.
Corina, while you are on, where do they find their degree plan?
Sure. So we can provide a degree plan for you. When you attend the webinars with the programs, they're going to explain all of the classes that they recommend for you to start with. And then also, recommendations to plan out your time here with us towards your degree. But we are the ones who put together a degree plan worksheet where you can then start tracking your classes and make sure that you're making progress towards graduation. We can definitely provide that for you. As a matter of fact, I think we're putting something together to make sure to email out to you so that you have that handy to start planning. So we can definitely get you that worksheet.
And the other thing to think about, you can always search for the graduate catalog, the fall 2020 graduate catalog, and you can go into the Jindal School of Management along the right navigation of the catalog, and you can pull up any degree plan, which will state out exactly what the core required classes are versus the electives. So that's another way to look at it too.
Okay. This person was asking how long it usually takes to get a hard copy of the I-20.
So if you are having a concern about your I-20, you should email ISSO prospective at utdallas.edu, and they can answer that question. Our International Student Services Office issues the I-20. The academic school does not. But if you have any complications or issues, you can always email Jindal at utdallas.edu, and I will reach out to the ISSO on your behalf. But they are really good about responding, and you should get a pretty expedient answer within 24 hours from them.
So this person asked, if they choose hybrid or flexible learning, will it affect their OPT for the MS Finance program?
So the finance program is one of those where the internship is not required. So what that means is And first of all, your mode is not going to affect CPT, but you have to realize that in order to complete an internship in the finance degree, you would need to have 2 long semesters on campus. But you can also talk to your program director, Carolyn Reichert, Dr. Reichert, and talk to her about your plans. But the mode doesn't affect CPT. It's the amount of instruction that you've had. And there's a rule that says you have to have 30 weeks of instruction. And so you have to find a way to get those 30 weeks in to be eligible for CPT. And in the finance program, since it is not required, an internship is not required, the current rule is you need 2 long semesters on campus. But I would encourage you to reach out to Dr. Reichert. You can see that MS Finance at utdallas.edu and talk with her directly so she can look at your circumstance.
Okay, so if a student chooses to opt for hybrid classes, will they be allowed to not attend classes face-to-face and also give tests online only? So I think they might be a little confused about hybrid. Hybrid isn't just online.
So did they say hybrid or high flex?
They said hybrid.
Okay, so any student in any mode can choose to attend asynchronously, or you can take the class live stream. Now, if you are a local student or a U.S. citizen, that's not necessarily a problem. But as an international student, you do want to try and attend class in the day that class is happening. The reason that it is hybrid is to make sure that we are creating a very safe environment. And we are only allowing the number of students in a room that are legally allowed by social distancing standards. So that means that if you're in a hybrid class and it meets in class every other Monday at 2 o'clock, then you will be in a room where everyone is 6 feet apart, everyone will be masked, and you will be safe. And if I were an international student, I would want to attend class, because at some point down the road, when you go to land that great OPT and eventually that H-1B, one of the things that they ask you in that process is to validate your attendance in class. And if you're on the record that you attended asynchronously or not in the classroom, I wouldn't want to run the risk of that. So if you're in a hybrid class and you are an international student, I would encourage you to go to that class. Very safe environment. We've not had any issues with students with COVID in the Jindal school. The university is amazingly strict about COVID standards, and we have been really fortunate. I know that all of you that might be in another country have been, watching the news about the very high COVID rates at big giant universities. Here at UT Dallas, I mean, knock on wood, it has been amazingly remarkable. So I would encourage you to attend class and not take, now the exams may all be remote because that's the way that they're orchestrating the exams, but I would encourage you to come to class every other class session when you're not online.
Can you talk again about how often is a face-to-face class required to maintain the visa status as an F1 student?
So if you are a brand new deferred international student and you are coming to the U.S. for the first time in spring of 2021 for classes, you are required to be enrolled in one face-to-face class. So 3 credit hours, which is one class. You must be in a class that it is in one of those 3 face-to-face modalities. That's traditional, that's hybrid, and that's high flex or flexible. So if you come and you arrive and you're coming to us from Singapore for the first time in the springtime for classes, and you're enrolled in the required 9 credit hours plus the 1 credit hour of professional development, one of those classes, one of those 3 credit hour classes must be in a face-to-face mode. So one of those classes, one of those 3 credit hour classes must be traditional, hybrid, or flexible.
What are the on-campus job opportunities for an incoming international student, and is there a website for them to apply?
So there is a website where you can apply. You go to the UT Dallas website and go to the Career Center for the university. they have a link where you can apply through Handshake. You cannot apply for an on-campus job until you are actually here. So that can't happen ahead of time. You have to be here on campus. But yeah, we do have a place where you can go to apply and upload your resume. There aren't as many campus jobs because of the COVID situation as there have been in the past, but there still are some. We've had a lot of students get internships. I would just like to say that it's really amazing the number of students that are doing internships, both face-to-face and virtually. It's kind of amazing.
I think we discussed this earlier, but the consulates in this person's country stopped operating in March due to COVID, and they won't resume until March 2021 for an F1 visa. So can they attend online?
Yes, you could attend as an FV student. You would want to fill out an I-comment form with the ISSO saying you are an FV student. That way we know you are a virtual student. And if you attend solely online from your home country, you don't have to be in a face-to-face class, but you could be, but you aren't required to be because you're not in the US.
For courses, is it a first come, first serve for registering for courses?
Oh, wow, that is a great question. So I'm going to take a first stab and then I'm going to pass it off to Corina. So Corina talked in her presentation about the fact that all of you have an enrollment appointment, but it's not a real appointment. It's just a time when you are eligible to start enrolling yourself. Now, those enrollment appointment slots are given in the order that students are closest to graduation. So those that are ahead of you are getting to register before you get to register. But the good news is they're not likely registering for the classes, the core classes that you need. So Corina, you want to chime in on that answer as well?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, Dr. Powell, you're absolutely right. The way that the programs are structured, a lot of times as you are an incoming student, the classes that you are taking are courses that previous students who have started before you did, have already completed. So a lot of times what happens is the classes you're going to be looking for are not going to be classes that other students are going to be registering in. So I know the question was, is it first come, first serve? Yes, there are classes that are available with a certain number of seats, and those are students who register in those first gets the seat, and then they fill up to a certain cap. So it doesn't mean that all students can go into one particular course, but there's going to be a difference with the courses that you're looking for. So you'll find that previous students are not likely to have taken the classes that you're going to be looking for your first semester.
Perfect. All righty. So there's a couple that we already answered. I want to attend as an FE student this spring semester, but one course out of the 4 courses I am planning to take has online and traditional mode options, but they don't want to take it online. Can they choose traditional mode as an FV student?
Yes, you can do that, and you would be participating asynchronously, which means that you would be watching those classes, those recorded links. Now, we actually have students who are FV this fall, who were enrolled in face-to-face classes and actually attended those classes, while that information was being streamed live. So we had a student who, she's in Shanghai, and so she got up in the middle of the night to attend her classes, which is really quite remarkable. She wanted to attend them live versus watching the recording links asynchronously. But yes, as a virtual student, you could enroll in a traditional class.
For supply chain management students where internships are compulsory, students get internships by the school, or do they have to find the internships themselves?
So as a brand new student, you're required to take a professional development class, and we teach you how to locate internships. But pursuing the internships is a student's responsibility. Now, the program helps a lot because, and our career center here in the Jindal School does as well, because we are constantly promoting open positions that we become aware of. The other thing that you may or may not know about as a deferred student is we have a hugely active student organization environment here. And all of those student organizations, with the exception of a handful, and we have over 70, are really devoted to introducing employers to students. So there are dozens of means for identifying internship opportunities, but the responsibility of locating the internship is the students.
This person asked, if I am living in America, can I select online classes?
If you are a domestic student, a local student, a student whose citizenship is in the United States, and you're living in the United States, you can choose to take all of your classes either remote, or you can choose any of the modalities, and all of the modalities are available asynchronously. Now, if you are an international student and you are enrolling with us, and let's say that you're an international student in South Korea, and you are enrolling with us, but you want to go live in Indiana with your brother, you probably don't want to do that, because you need to be enrolled in a face-to-face class, one of those three options, and you need to be attending that class, because you would want to document that later on should you get an H-1B that you actually attended the classes. You don't want that to be a hurdle several years down the road. So it kind of depends the status of that individual. If you're a U.S. citizen, absolutely, you can attend any of those classes. You can do it all asynchronously. You can do it all basically online. But if you are an international student coming to the U.S., this first time you're in the U.S. and you're wanting to be in a different U.S. city, be enrolled in a face-to-face class but actually not be present, I wouldn't recommend that. I think that you're running a risk later.
If I choose a 3-credit face-to-face class and it cannot come to school on time, what can I do for that class? Can I do that? Can I do it online for that face-to-face class?
Yes. So any of the course modalities, all 5 of them, if you're in a traditional face-to-face, you are in a hybrid, you are in a flexible, you are in a remote, any of those classes, you can attend asynchronously, which means that that class is being recorded and a link will be made available so that you can watch that instruction. Or you can choose to show up in a streaming capacity at that time too. But all 5 of the class modalities are available asynchronously, which means you don't have to be present at the time that they're going on. But again, if you are an international student, I would strongly encourage you. In fact, I would highly encourage you to come and be in the classroom on the days that you're scheduled to be there. Because later on down the road, should you get an H-1B, I don't want you to have a problem with saying that you weren't present in a face-to-face class.
So we are a little over time, but I do have another question. I am a deferred spring international student. I'm unable to pull up the tuition estimate for spring, and an error message comes up. The term you selected cannot pull tuition rate. Choose valid term. Who should they reach out to get this resolved?
So I think the best person to reach out to is your degree program. All of them can help provide you with total expenses on what a projected cost is. You can also go to the utdallas.edu website, and you can type into the search estimated tuition, and up comes a calculator link where you can go and actually put in the semester you're coming, and it should be able to calculate it. But if you look at your screen, you'll see all of the program emails, and those folks can help you with that calculation. I'm suspecting that you're wanting to fill out an I-20 and you need a projected cost, and that's why you're looking for that, but they can help. And I just want to re-emphasize these webinars that you see on the screen for your degree programs that will happen in the next week or so. I cannot encourage you enough, and neither can Corina. These are really important webinars that you should attend, especially if you are a deferred international student, so that you can understand the degree programs, you can understand what is a required class versus an elective, you can learn more about the tracks, you can ask those career-based questions. The people that run our degree programs, which we introduced at the beginning of this webinar, they are a fabulous resource for all of you, whether you are a local student or an international student. They have got all of the nugget informations information that you would need regarding your degree plan and courses and what is required. So I can't emphasize enough how attending that will save you a lot of grief, because you will get a lot of answers to degree and program and course and elective information.
All right, well, those are all the questions that I have, but I do want to encourage anybody who has any questions about today that are unanswered to email us at jindal@utdallas.edu. And also I'd encourage you to attend the program specific webinars that Monica mentioned. But I don't know if you have any other closing remarks.
So we are so grateful that all of you would take time to come be with us today. We know your lives are busy, and we know that your lives are complicated. This webinar is recorded, is being recorded, and so we're going to send you a link to this so you can go back and watch portions of it again. And we encourage you to do that. And we're so grateful that that you've chosen UT Dallas as your destination. We can't wait to actually see you face to face and have you be in our building. And we encourage you, if you have any questions or concerns, as Norma said, please email UT Dallas, jindal@utdallas.edu, and we will be sure to answer those questions. Corina, thank you for your time today, and Norma for what you do to make these sessions happen. And we look forward to seeing all of you, so be in touch.